take a look at this one first. This is basically Shawn soaked his crystal in, and he was attempting to create the RAV like Joe did. And it just looks beautiful. Sorry, I had to put this in there because it goes right through everything. All right.
Now he is getting tribal luminescence out of that effect. That was something I didn't really see in mine.
Yeah, you could see it. It goes from not really a lot. Then you could see where the water's lighting it up, but he hasn't created the prism inside of it. It's not bouncing the light yet. You get a little bit more as it breaks out, but we're not getting anywhere to the level where you're saturated it.
Yeah, it. You know what I found is that in order for it to want to go through as opposed to around, um, you it helps to have an established channel beneath it. And the reason that I found for that is um, that the anode discharge, the arc that comes off, it for whatever reason knows exactly where that channel is.
Yeah.
Right. Even though there's material on top of it, it knows exactly where the channel is, and it wants the damn channel.
Yes.
It wants the channel. So it will, rather than try to just form a new channel or make the connection in its whatever way it's got to do, like you see all that arcing off the sides getting over, it instead decides that it's going to try to burrow itself through the crystal, and form a new channel to the existing channel. That's what it tries to do. So that's food for thought with it, and if you have, and I don't know if he does or not, he didn't tell me details on this experiment, but if you have the crystal itself, okay, in the cathodic liquid, like the water, okay, then it's not going to want to have to find the channel. It's just going to want to go to the water. So like you should have in my experience with it, the few times I've done it, and it's gotten the same result more or less. You want to have an established piece of clay in the water with the channel, and then put your where you're hoping that the uh, plasma arc goes through the crystal. You want to put that right on top of your channel, out of the water, from the top.
Okay, I just want to answer a question right now. Is it going around it or through it? In this example that Shawn did, it's going around it.
Yeah, you
As
can
the
see.
water goes through the actual crystal itself, anything that gets in there, it will go through the water, but it is not reflecting in the crystal.
Yeah,
So, yeah, Joe's is a bit different. You got that thing to go burrowed in, and then boom, like a big sun inside the center of it.
and then it blew up.
Yeah.
Nathan, I apologize, but my dog is bothering me to go out. So I don't have control of that.
Oh,
Um,
go for it.
if you could
I'll
hold
take care
down
of
the
it.
fort for a minute here, yeah, I'll be back shortly.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's going. Yeah, it's going through the water and the quartz crystal. Exactly what Shawn says. He's right. Yeah, it was just like when he did his granite experiment. It went through all the holes in the granite and did the same thing. So yeah, there are sparks that go around it, though. I will disagree on that only because you can see them. Look, you can see it tries to go around it every time, but you can actually see the light going through it, which means as soon as it hits the water in there, it goes through. But there is also some plasma going around. Yeah, there he goes. He's on the same page as me. Okay. Dog's got to do his business, man. What can you do? Nice. Okay. I want to bring up another one here and we'll share it with Joe when he gets back. Now let me find a clean shot here. We'll show you what's going on. There we go. Okay. So what Shawn decided to do was he took a paper clip and he bent it and put it down on the bottom of the cathode, which is a steel plate at this point. And he was able to put it up at the bottom right there. You can see the clay on top of it. And you can see he's got his anode set up right. The bottom's a paper clip that hooks to a little piece of clay right there. I want you guys to notice right at the bottom of the clay. You see those little flakes that are going on right there? It looks like something that you would see outside your house at wintertime or something like that, like little snowflakes put together. I don't know that we all know exactly what it is yet, but it looks like to me snowflakes. We'll go ahead and take a look back at this video a little bit now so that you know kind of what's going on. Yeah, Shawn calls this his angel, by the way, his little angel RAV. And it's another component of how he builds out his RAV. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. We'll just slow it down a little bit. So we can see the RAV's real big. So it's got a lot of energy in there right now. Look at that. You can see it's fluctuating. It goes in and out. It's definitely got a beat frequency to it. This is in low hertz. There's no way that's in kilohertz, that beat frequency, because you're able to see the motion in it. So let's see. It goes through its stages. Till it's clean. What I notice right here is we have 2 breakouts on this, 2 small little balls that built out from this, one on the very top and one on the bottom left. So we have 2 that break out from this. All right, Joe, I'm just showing them this right here, the RAV Shawn set over with the small piece of clay. Look, there's 2 little bodies on this one.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that one had a satellite. Or two satellites that one had. Yeah, I see the 2. It's kind of like connected to that one.
Yeah. It says spinning at 100 kilohertz. Oh, that I have no doubt. All I'm saying is the beat, the way it builds out in energy and pulls back in, that's a beat. The beat frequency of it, you can see it's obviously in hertz. No matter how fast it's spinning, you could see the beat of it just punching in and out.
Yeah, and that has to do with like all the offsets and everything like that. You know, it's in tune with and rhythm with the higher frequency, but the pulse itself is a much lower frequency.
Yes. So here we go. Here's the first time we're going to start to see the snow. So I don't see it just yet. Let's take a look. Starting to see a little bit. Oh, that's a cool picture. Look at that.
Oh yeah. Got the little apparition coming out.
Yeah. Okay, so we see it now. You start to see it right at the bottom of the piece of clay right there. You start to see the little icicles.
Now that's all. Now whether or not it's ice, I mean, I'm not there to sit there and know these things, right? To me, what it kind of says, more than freezing, is slowing down of the, like it is in essence freezing, but whether or not it's ice in the sense that we're thinking, you know what I mean, is another story. But it's literally self-structuring individual molecules and then bringing them into lattice form in a diffuse state, macroscopic diffuse state, and it's slowing the molecules down so much in their accumulation that they're condensing and solidifying.
So you think you might be in like a little bit of a time dilation field sitting right there, and it allows it to grow this?
Well, I think that because you have it pressurizing and condensing on one side in that state, the pulse state. Like I said, the other side be inverse, right? So you have a cool diffuse state. It's actually structuring inversely. So you have that structuring in a way where it's separating the layers and then bringing it into a ball and rotating. Well, this is structuring it in more of a standing wave way, in a diffuse standing wave.
Mm-hmm.
On the other side. And again, it's like that's literally molecular deposition, is what that is, which is incredible.
Yeah, Shawn wants me to show the other one where it shows it better.
Mhm.
I just want to go through this real quick on the video first, if that's all right. I just want to see if we're picking up anything like when it disappears or.
Well, now Shawn's very fast to say that it's immediately when it's powered off, it goes away immediately.
Right, that's kind of what I'm looking for.
And that's because the structuring is being held together by the diffuse the diffuse static charge on that side.
Yeah, give me a second. I'm gonna pull a video or picture from what Shawn sent.
Magneto, frozen light crystals. Yeah, we don't know. Some type of, I mean, if you want to, I'm calling it molecular, but if you want to call it particle, fine. That's more vague. It's I don't know what is accumulating there, but it is something.
Yeah, it was definitely not supposed to be there. Well, not to what we know, anyway.
I mean, it runs right in line with the theory that I had, but now we get to see it. That something was happening on the other side that was opposite what's happening on the RAV side, and here it is.
No, you're absolutely correct.
But I just don't know what it is specifically at this moment. I have some ideas. Frozen light's a very cool idea. I didn't even consider that. I don't think so.
Okay.
But then again, when you look at the way that physicists try to tie that Maxwell demon situation right into their theories, right? Because I can't just discard it because they know that it's plausible, right?
Mm-hmm.
The way that they try to do that is with dark energy and dark matter, right? So is that a dark energy or dark matter accumulator on the cathode side of this? Could be. Goes away immediately as soon as it destabilizes, aka the system shut off.
Well, just remember what we said, that if your structure is hot, space is cold. You're going to have that temperature differential right there. When you have that, you have entropy happening at all times in space.
Mm-hmm.
For no matter how big your sun is or how small, you're going to have it. Every planet's going to have it as well. So yeah, dark matter, that's on the other side of, the entropy that's taking place in your sun. So yeah, it's got to be filled with energy as well.
Yep.
So all right, here's a better picture right here. See that one a lot better. Let's see, I think we're on that one. We have it over here where he defines it, and you can see that on the bottom it starts to build on the cathode itself.
Yep. It's all because of the energy exchange that's occurring. That's how that is. Just like the RAV is only occurring because of the energy exchange, that's occurring because of the energy exchange. It's the inverse of it. Yeah. Not silicate slag, though. No, I don't think so.
Okay, what about this?
Sorry, Jarvis.
Seeing as it disappears instantly when the power is turned off, light disappears, frozen light evaporates instantly. Do you think it's frozen light?
I mean, a couple people have said that. I mean, I didn't really consider it. I mean, it's like I said, it's particles. What particles of what? I don't know. I mean, uh, it's hard to say. I mean, realistically, okay. So this is what I can tell you, but then again, I don't know what frozen light does or doesn't do. So that's the hard part of it, I guess. But
Hmm.
in photo analysis, when I first looked at it, I did all the levels and screwed with all the brightness, contrast, saturations, everything up and down, multiple times, and it does not appear to be luminescent.
You know what it kind of reminds me of, Joe? You know the layer that you get, say, on a piece of metal when you leave it out in the weather, and you get that nice layering that goes over top of it, or oxide layer.
Yeah, an oxide. Yeah,
Yeah, it kind of looks like an oxide that temporarily forms.
right, because it's not solidified, but it's structured, and I
Yes.
don't disagree with that. Like I think that that's probably it. I mean, we've said from the get go, we know it forms the channel. We understand the mechanisms that play when it forms the channel. We know that it's taking oxygen, nitrogen, and some anode material, and basically creating deposition in it. Obviously, if the anode's going to make it to the cathode side, okay, like um in a higher uh concentration density level, right, then maybe this is the reaction of that. Like maybe that's because the piece of clay is not large enough, right, to and or thick enough to moderate the RAV formation in that case, right? So some more of it's getting through, but it's condensing, right? And it's condensing at the surface. And why does it do that? For the same reason that you know, North Pole repels each other, right? Outside of a
Hmm.
field, but on the inside of the field, it attracts each other, right? So this is right at the cusp of where I've always said that those energy transfer lines cross, and where there's a magnetic component that exists. And because it would be on either side of the magnetic component, it would make sense that there would be this change potentially of what the anode, the positive, if you want to think about it that way, right, is wanting to do. It's wanting to draw closer to the South Pole as it gets there, but once it gets there, it repels.
Hmm.
And that's how you see the condensation potentially. This is like kind of off the cuff because we've only known about this phenomena for a day or two, and realistically, I just don't have we don't have enough information yet. But this isn't a little bit or something. Like look at the amount of that, and that's what's there. It's larger than the piece of clay.
Yeah, give me a second. We're going to get in real tight on this because it looks like a snowflake structure, is what it actually looks like. So let me take that
It's
down.
also right. I mean, it is fractal. It's repeating, and it's not arbitrary the way that it's structuring. Right.
No, not at all. So
It looks
let
like
me take.
mycelium, frankly.
I'm telling you, they look like little snowflakes to me. So what it just means is there's a structure there. That's all I'm saying. And yeah, it could be a crystalline structure if it would stay. I would agree with that, but it's disappearing. And usually, high voltage plasma throws off I want to say like a twine or like a web, something that looks like that. That's not what I'm seeing here. And usually that stuff stays. You know what I mean? It has a form of matter. This is different. It keeps pulling back in when it's done. It's like it's cooling the material enough to create this, and then immediately it goes back to room temperature and it sucks their way.
Yeah, this is what happens when you separate your differentials. But
And it's not uncommon. We've seen the Meg actually freeze over
mm,
when you run it. So ice isn't uncommon for this type of situation. That's why we mention it here. It could just be the other side of that sheath zone, man. It's you know what I mean. It's gone cold on you.
well, I mean, the way that I've been thinking about the RAV, and I mean, I have said it before, but maybe never emphasized on its importance, is I really think that uh, the even during the formation of the RAV, but specifically once it's formed, it acts itself as a separator of things. And when I was talking to Bernie the other day, I was talking about this other potential about how we have all these, like basically free radical wave, like fragmented wavelengths, like wave conjugation, that exist environmentally. And it's extraordinarily dense, but you really can't pick up on any of it because it's random, right? Well, if you think about the outer torsion shell of the RAV, and you realize that anything that's basically in resonance with it would actually just gloss and glide right over it, right? It wouldn't affect it at all. But anything out of resonance, like these freeform waves and stuff, would actually hit it a like a surface tension, right? And it would actually take it in and potentially rectify it, right? Like it would bring it actually then into resonance with it and take all these fragments that are unusable and free and everywhere and actually use it to meet its end. And I think that could be a factor here too, because again, that's the separation at work in that case.
Yeah.
And it's taking things that are this or are that, and then changing it to what it needs to be, and then redistributing it the way that it ought to be in order for the highest efficiency to occur. But under the premise that I'm saying, that is in that case over unity, and not because because realistically it's kind of using just everything that's free around it, like it's transmission, like any transmissions.
Okay.
I don't know.
What I'll say about this phenomena is that it matches when you have the coherence and resonance and a spark gap in a system. Okay. Just so we all understand this. This is something that's not well known or not well understood, and people freak out when they see it. You're running your spark gap at 240, you know what I mean, Fahrenheit, right? It's hot. It's not super hot, but it's hot. But then out of the blue, it drops down to room temperature or below. And you really sometimes don't know why. This is why. Okay. When you get this thing perfectly running, what happens is the outside zone is cold. That's why we talked about entropy before, because the inside zone is hot. It's got a sheath layer, then right on the outside of there, it's cold. So what it does to the rest of your system is it allows energy to flow better through it. It opens the conduits and allows the energy to flow through so there's less loss in the system, and it tunes it for you to the exact resonance of that spark gap. Now, like I've always said before, there's no difference between a plasmoid, a spark gap, a RAV, and a ball lightning. They're all going to be the same energy. So as long as you understand that, you're just changing the condition and where the energy is forming. That's it. So in this case, to find something like this, snow would make sense. Fractally put out there, because that's exactly what the resonance is doing. You got to remember, there's patterns of resonance in structured plasma. Therefore, you're going to get a structure coming out just like snow does. So at this point, I wouldn't say it's crystal because it hasn't attached itself and created matter yet. You got to remember, we're not doing matter conversion yet. Um, but then again, snow is matter. So there is, I guess, a little bit of conversion there. But it's going to take a transmutative element to do this, and that's what the white is. That's why it's so fascinating, because you can go in every single circle with this and see it. But I just wanted to mention the systems and the way they work and the way they change the energy, and they cool it down, and it's a cooling factor that's going on that lets the energy just flow.
Well, once okay, so let's tie it into Bernie now. You know, so you have different frequency bands and different attributes of the RAV itself, and different materials have different frequency bands in which they structure in. If you're able to introduce molecular elements into it at a certain uh, frequency band, right, combination band, and you have this formation, then you already know what's going to end up happening is that the element is going to rectify through the frequency bands of the RAV and an exchange with the cathode side.
Mm-hmm.
And then the exchange with the cathode side is going to structure it into the crystal, lattice of the on the other side. And that's going to be, based on the frequency input, as far as how it structures on the other side.
Yeah.
So that's sort of kind of it. Like, and it's like Bernie does the opposite of this, right? So he
Mm-hmm.
breaks the stuff down and gets it to that finest point, but once it's at that finest point, now it can change into something else because of what Bernie was saying the other day, which is what Nathan and I have been saying now and for some time about the rap and why it's so pertinent is I apologize because I forgot exactly what Bernie called it, but it's basically like valence shell fusion.
Yes. Oh,
So
yes.
that's where the hydrogen component of it comes in. So there's modifications to this particular system that can be made at either the traditional RAV way, or even this case, modifications that could be made to increase the hydrogen availability to allow for that, the greater amount of valence shells to get the greater transmutive potentials. And we're not even talking about energy production or nothing like that anymore, or other weird shit going on with this thing. Now it's just straight up, all right, how do you take and restructure valence electrons into whatever the hell you want?
So
That's where it's going at this moment.
I need to point this out, okay? Just because in the future it's going to become a topic. The anode cathode effect is going on in the Earth, and I know you hear me say this all the time.
Mhm.
The anode is at the top, and the cathode is at the bottom. Okay, we talk about mass, and now we're starting to talk about snowflakes in the system that are going on. I just need people to understand the similarities that are going on here. I understand it's a ball of energy. Okay, I'm very well on that understanding page. But what you don't understand is we're in the same energy field right now, where we sit, that an anode cathode relationship would give you in the atmosphere itself. So if we have mass starting to form in clouds, then we would have snowflakes coming out of the clouds as it snows. As it's dripping down the cathode, and Shawn says that it's going down there, you know what I mean? It almost looks like a water effect. We would see that as well. What do we also see? High voltage taking drops of water and ionizing them, breaking away the hydrogen and oxygen from each other, and then creating sometimes an anomaly, which is ball lightning. So we're seeing all the correct conditions. We're just seeing them in a lab structure versus the outside atmosphere. So everything is present. So just so we all understand that when we come to everything in the future on this is all, I keep saying it's the same effect. It's an anode cathode effect with high voltage, no matter if you have it between two pieces of metal or you have it between the earth and the sky, we're seeing the same thing. It all matches up perfectly. So just that's why I called it snow instead of crystalline structure, because if we were in the actual clay, inside the clay, then I believe, yes, you can build the crystalline structure inside there and get crystals from it, which they do have in plasma theory, a crystal you can build in that. And you can also build, what's that black crystal called? It's like a
Obsidian?
glass. Yeah, obsidian, which comes out when you put a huge amount of voltage in something that has a, you know what I mean, like a rock or a mass to it. So just so we understand that we're seeing the correct effects that we would in the earth. That's all I want to tell people so that we can follow it correctly.
Correct. And also like with regard to the exchange and kind of how like the thermodynamics in this is working and the proof of the guy at the door, so to speak, right? We were
Hmm.
saying earlier. Well, you have it's like I've kind of been saying all along about how the RAV is acting as like an electron vacuum. It needs this feed, and it basically is just sucking up as much energy out of whatever it can get as possible to maintain. And in doing that in this particular circumstance, because the mass is so low, right? It's actually pulling it all out and then starting to get it from lower. And because the mass is low, the diffusion is less on the cathode side. It's literally sucking all the energy from the other side into it. And then what does that lead to when you take all the energy at something? Well, it leads to cold, and because it's in resonance and there's an exchange going on, you get the structuring of the remnants, you get the accumulation of the particulate on the other side, which actually could well be oxides because of the what the plasma probably primarily is in this configuration is probably mostly oxygen, right? You're going to have a very small hydrogen component in this because realistically, it would be restricted to that which is uh, required to get the arc in the first place to hit the clay from the initial vapor deposition. So it's mostly an oxygen plasma that forms the RAV on one side. So that means that the exchange is probably going to be primarily oxygen nitrogen, which means that you're going to end up with oxides, like you were saying earlier, probably an oxide deposition at that point. Um, but it's particulate. Like I said, it's and how fine are the particles? Well, fine enough that when you power it off, it disintegrates into nothing because realistically, it probably has almost no mass.
Yeah,
Like
yeah. Well, that's
right. It's like a super aerogel sort of deal. Like it's got no mass. It's just accumulating in a lattice at that point. But you turn off the energy and the very force that's keeping it together at that point through the resonance goes away, and then it goes.
okay. But all right, now we're gonna start talking about the next part of Sean's thing, and this is kind of like this is why I'm leaning towards hydrogen and all of it. Okay, and you just got to see the way this form works, and it makes sense. Okay, if he's putting out hydrogen in the core of this thing, and he's got a proton and an electron working, okay, I know it looks different than physics tells you how it's supposed to look in an atom. I'm I think the other way. I think this is the proper way to look at it in an atom. And if that's the case, and it produces an extra hydrogen out of it, right? Or a two hydrogen, you know what I mean? And then it picks up an electron, or excuse me, it picks up an oxygen out of the environment. Then it makes sense that that actually is, you know what I mean, the ice that we're seeing. Okay, so that's just my opinion on it.
I
I'm
mean,
still
could
okay with
be. I mean,
the
it could be.
oxide.
It could be. I mean, but I mean, at the end of the day, like if it's turning back into water vapor and then crystallizing like that, that means that when you're powering it off, there's instantaneous sublimation. I
Well,
mean, so explain that,
it,
because
it
like
could be that once the RAV turns off, the instantaneous heat that goes from the shell being there to the shell not being there, and the heat just boom blows out.
I mean,
That
that could be,
could be.
but then that would melt, and that would be a
Then you get
different
some
thing.
water. I understand what
That
you're
would be
saying.
different because because of where the heat would be coming from. You know, it would be very illogical to think that there would be an instantaneous sublimation event. You know, as opposed to because the conditions for sublimation don't seem to be there. Like, you know, in that case, I I don't know because the heat rises first off, and the
No,
way that it's configured, you know, plus there's an insulator in between that was already bifurcated. The worst that could happen, you see, because of how it works, is that it, it would if it's cold on one side, it's because you drew the heat out from the other, right? Which is the exact point of the keeper at the door that separates the balls in the box from in hot and cold, right? That's the whole idea. But the thing is that um, that means that when it turns off, the worst thing that could happen is it goes back immediately, which it wouldn't, I don't think, but it would go back immediately. But then it would result in an ambient state, and the ambient state wouldn't be hot.
you see, that's why we want the picture of when they go away. You know what I mean? And the
Mhm.
process of when they go away. Then we can slow it down real far and find out what's going on. What worries me is this little smoke layer we got going on here. You see what I'm looking at? The guy, yeah, little spermy guy here.
Yep, I see.
So that's what worries me.
Yeah, that's our
Okay,
demon. That's the
that's our
guy.
transmutation happening. Yeah,
Yeah, right. Which, by the way, ironically, and I don't think Shawn knew this, right? So he nicknamed this particular RAV the Angel RAV because of a couple of things that he saw, right? Now
yeah.
he nicknamed it the Angel RAV, but when I started kind of looking at it and then delving into a little bit of like, okay, so what are we looking at here? And then I stumbled upon that Maxwell's demon being like the culprit. I was like, that's hilarious. What
The,
irony. You know what I
the
mean?
irony of it, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me pull up another video file here. Uh, and let's see what we're getting at here. I think we're still on the clay on this one. And we can see the structure built out on it already. You see, hold on. Now, it's not just built out on the clay, it's built out on the actual cathode.
On the actual cathode too, which is what I
Yeah.
was saying about it crawling down because of you know the mass is different in this configuration. It's why you see it. You know, if it's just going into water, it's going to go into too diffusive state.
Shawn says he sees angels and Joe sees demons.
I don't see demons. I didn't make this up. The guy was alive 120 years ago, for Christ's sake, Shawn. Like, I don't know. I didn't call it a demon. It was just what it was called.
Nice. Shawn says there's a salt in the clay on this one. That's probably why it's on the cathode then. So, all right. Well, that's
Okay.
kind of yeah. Let me pull the other one. You know what gets me in this picture right here, Joe?
What's that?
We always talk about the lens effect with the camera, but the
Mhm.
camera's not moving. So I'm wondering if that shell on the outside works as a lens and shows the lens effect along with the camera. Do you get what I'm trying to say here? Like we get a lensing from the outside of our planet that comes in from the sun.
Well, because the light source is moving in this case, you know the spot of emission,
Hmm.
you know, it's the lens flare is going to move.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I'm just throwing it out there because I don't have I mean my camera out, but I can see these lighting effects very clearly. You know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah.
It's sometimes just with the sun itself.
Hmm.
So I'm not going to discount the fact that there may be a lens going on in the RAV itself.
Well, I mean, look at that one. That one's not even like a traditional one. That's like that thing is ghostly.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's like I don't know. That's different altogether.
There comes the paranormal demons of Joe's.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. That's strange stuff. I wish I was there to see what it looks like, because
Huh.
I'd like to know what the eye sees.
Yeah.
That to me, that doesn't look like any lens flare I've ever seen. So I don't know what that is.
Probably it's just a reflection.
Well,
Most likely.
something going on.
Okay. So let's get to the one we want to see. Let's see. This is like a precursor to it. Just showing you what he's got going on here. Okay, so sorry, these
Yep, not that one.
not that one yet. Well, it makes sense now. Okay, so let's go back here. We're showing this, but I want to put this one back up real quick. So we're seeing this. I don't see any clay. Okay. So I might be blind or something. I don't see any clay. Am I wrong in saying that, Joe, or do you see it?
I don't see the clay, but I think it's there. Shawn would have to clarify that.
So here we are, no clay, and I want to say you put clay on it. So, but
Yeah,
I'm
because it
just
doesn't
looking at
build without the clay.
yeah. So here we are.
You need the clay. That's the whole point. That's what makes it not a spark gap.
Okay. Well, I'm just hey, I'm just throwing it out there. I didn't see it, and I'm still not seeing it. So I need Sean to clarify.
Yeah, he said he put clay on it after. So I guess
After
after
that,
that.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, that okay. So now we got a little tiny piece of clay. Must be microscopic here. All right, let's go back and play it again.
It just acts as a seed, a little barrier.
Look how small that cathode is.
But it's still larger. See, and this is what's important. And this is why I asked a very important question to Shawn when we before we came on today. It's still got the greater mass and therefore the greater diffusion because of the metal plate. It's in contact with the metal plate.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's that makes it that offset ratio. That makes it deterministic of it being the cathode side. Without it would be you'd be looking at two anodes, or
Oh, I
would
no,
it
I
be
know.
out of sequence? Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I'm slowing it down. I'm trying to see how big that piece of clay is. But hold on. Before we get there, look at the little satellite.
Yep. It's
So
got
that's
two.
why,
It's
again,
got
I
two
want to see how
satellites.
big the clay is because I want to know if that clay is out in the middle of nowhere. But in talking to Sean, I thought the impression I got is that it was sitting in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. The way that I see it is that satellite is not in contact with the clay. It's just in locked position with the RAV itself. That's the way I see it, but again, not there, so hard for me to say definitively.
Well, there's certain implications to it if it's not on the clay.
I agree.
Because most people would say, "Oh my God, you're putting it in the clay, so you're doing a welding effect, so it must be slag sitting to the side, right?" We've heard that argument before.
Yeah, that's not the case.
Now,
I've seen it with my own two eyes.
yeah, so now we look at it, and it doesn't appear to have clay on it again, but I cannot tell you for sure how big it is. Is that satellite sitting by itself out there? See, because the implication here to this is that it's building out temporary matter outside of itself and it's now creating a coherent structure between the what I would call the hydrogen in the center and the one, okay, not the electron, but the proton sitting outside of it. So the electron we can see is pretty easy. It's the energy that goes around it. It's the electricity that goes around it. So it makes a big, gigantic difference if that thing is not on the clay.
Yeah. Again, we would need Shawn for clarification on that, but it does not appear to be on the clay. And I watched it a couple times before we came on. So I don't know. I don't think it is. I think that this particular RAV is probably taking up the entire surface of the clay, like the main RAV.
That's what
Um,
I'm thinking it's
if
doing.
not even maybe a little bit extended out at the equatorial plane. You know, like I think that the base diameter is the size of the piece of clay.
Okay, well, we'll ask Shawn now since he's
He
on.
says that the clay is the size of a needle point on this, so the RAV is
Oh,
larger
so
than
it's
clay.
definitely outside of it.
Yeah,
There's no getting around that.
no getting around that.
Wow. See, this is why you tune in right here. This is amazing.
Yep. And these are the reasons that I believed in this thing since day one. You know, it's getting there is the point. You know, it's getting there.
Oh, yeah, yeah. It's more than just ball lightning or plasmoids or anything else. This takes the step beyond. This is why it's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, it forms that. What did John Bigman said? That's a ball, dusty carbon plasma. Um, I mean, listen, I'm not saying yes, no, maybe, whatever. What I will say is this: it forms because of it builds a certain amount before it forms. All right. And then it structures. And when it structures, it'll start structuring a little side piece. Now, sometimes that side piece will actually suck in if there's an imbalance in the RAV itself. So if there's an imbalance and the RAV actually needs it, it sucks it in. If it doesn't need it, right, it ends up just being off to the side. Okay, and that actually then adds into the either stability or instability of the RAV, depending on what's going on, and it's different in every circumstance. So if the RAV is stable to begin with, and that's there, that's going to create an instability, right? If the RAV is a little unstable in its formation, and that's there, that could actually try, work as like a tire weight, so to speak, and actually pull it, in, and then keep it stable. So it could be one of two effects that it has, depending on the circumstance. And obviously, there's a lot of variables and a lot of guesswork that we've done as to exactly what is the components of these things. You know, like we have a good idea, but we don't have the actual testing to show it at this point. All right. So it's hard for me to say anything matter of fact, but that's seemingly what happens with that satellite. And also, it forms usually if it finds a small point of stability outside of the initial zone where the RAV is forming. But what's actually very interesting about them is that they do not form their own channels in clay. Okay, they don't form their own channels. Um, they're like bound to the channel, so there's actually like a relationship between that and the RAV itself, which is why it stays locked. And it has to do with the channel. That's why it doesn't form its own channel.
I think it's funny, man. We're seeing transmutation elements everywhere all over this thing. There's no getting around it. You got your little worm that came out of it, right? So we're seeing some kind of matter form out. whether you want to call that dust or whether you want to call it snow, whatever you want to call it, we're still seeing transmutation because it's not in that state and it was never in that state before it started this. Therefore, we're getting transmutation out of it to change it. We're starting to see it with the white, and then there's a yellow layer around that. So we got an inner and outer core. We can see that very clearly. We can see that it's held in, so we have some form of zoning going on. We can see whether you want to call it a lens effect or whatever, however you want to describe it, that there's definite shells going on inside shells on this thing. I think the only thing stopping it from creating the outer shell is time. And I can clearly see in the how do I say it, the lens effect, where it's darker energy and then it gets lighter in the energy,
Oh yeah, I
which
see that.
goes, yeah, it goes perfectly in line with physics and how they describe this. Um, and it's the Tuft anode effect, where you get a little bit of leakage that goes through, and then it gets real light, and at the very end of it, you start to see it gets heavier and more put together, right? And then you get that next state right there, which is the sheath.
Yeah,
So
it's
it's
a tough nodule, tough nodule.
yeah,
Right.
so
Yeah, yeah.
it's building out in the exact way we expect it to build out. We're seeing the satellite built out of it, which is the correct thing to see. If you're seeing anything in how you want to say, okay, we got hydrogen, and then we want to pull out to the next element. We want to pull helium out of it. So then we would need another satellite to build out from this in order to pull helium out, which would match the way the sun would do it in a effect that goes on between the two of them to create the outer layer of the sun. So we're seeing all of the structure built out in the energy. Now, does it all have to be confirmed and lab tested and all that fun stuff that goes on with hours and hours and hours of process? Yes. But are we seeing all the right signs? Absolutely.
So, His Highness says the ultimate price of decreasing entropy is an even greater increase in entropy elsewhere per Gemini, right? Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so that is inherently true, right? Like you can't knock the blocks out of the bottom of a a block castle and expect the top to stand, right? Like the rest have to fall into their disorganized place, so to speak. But when you're looking at the differentials totally split, you know, it's doing it in the system itself. So it's the components and not the environment that are being organized. Um, and that's important. And the reason that's important is because that's the high efficiency of the system and the breaking of the locality with the environment. And it's not a total break of locality where it has no relationship whatsoever, but there's a definite disassociation that's occurring here between this and the environment. So you can actually structure, very low reverse entropy, very low entropy into the efficiency of this system without it necessarily knocking out the bottom blocks of the environment because the environmental effect is so limited because of the compressive relationship of it. So you have like this compression that occurs on the one side, and as you know, like that doesn't allow for the heat escape from the RAV. It doesn't allow for the energy escape in the RAV. In a lot of circumstances, it doesn't allow for the full luminosity escape from the RAV. So it's
Mm-hmm.
holding in light, it's holding in sound, it's holding in energy, it's holding in heat, right? Which is analogous to energy. All that is just energy dispersal. Doesn't matter. It, so it's that compression that's doing it, and it's omnipresent throughout the entire system once these connections are made, or at least in the zone in which the reaction is occurring where it's relevant. So, um, even though Gemini was inherently correct, you know, it's not taking into consideration that though this isn't a closed system, it just doesn't have, it already has insulative values that are occurring.
Hmm.
And
Absolutely.
those are mostly due to electromagnetism. And the same as you get magnetic compressions on the RAV side. Well, on the other side, you're having a resonant value of self structuring. Okay, that's still within that magnetic field, and it's still contained within that magnetic field. And it's not traditional. See, the RAV has its own magnetic field, but it's not just a standard magnetic field where you have it like this, right? It's actually double that. It's on the other side too. That's how that
So,
goes.
so let me just say this real quick. I agree with Joe, by the way. Um, it also means that space is not empty. So when you look at some kind of structures like this and you understand entropy correctly, you realize something very important. In order for that structure to be contained, space cannot be empty. The darkness has to have structure in it.
Mhm.
So just realize that right off the bat, that when they say is there dark matter in space, is it empty? I'm just going to tell you it's full of something, and we can clearly see it. And the only way that you get entropy is because it has some form of structure in it.
Mhm. Well, it's
So,
probably like if you want, and if you think about that as ether, right? And what it ultimately ends up being is just it's just a higher density, lower energy state that's probably like below absolute zero. It still has movement, but at the same time, it's not recognizable in this dimensionality. So it lies outside of Planck's scale, but it's infinitely dense. But because it lies out of Planck's scale, it doesn't have a definite effect other than what we perceive as total cold on this end of things. Um, and that's probably like the real deal about it. Um, like that, yeah, that's sort of it.
okay, so I wanted to show this, Joe. This is the reason Shawn called it angel wings.
Hmm. Oh, yep. But then when you look at the RAV, it did the same thing.
Kind of.
Oh yeah, he showed the picture of it. It was like a little angel in the raft, and it was looked just like that.
Look at that. All confused, looking like wings. So I'll pause it and slow it down and show everybody the wings.
Well,
Right
first of
there.
all, I mean, what is that? What does that waveform tell you? Think about everything I've said. I'm not going back into it all. Like,
Well, you have like a structure, but you don't have coherence in it yet.
well, you see your exchange though, don't you? Then see
Hmm.
what happens in the middle is it creates something new, a third thing, and
Yeah.
it crosses, right? And when it crosses, then it creates another thing, right? Look at it. Look at the waveform in the middle.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh, it's gonna
Yeah.
create that. Yeah. No, I get
Uh-huh.
it.
Yeah. Oh, it's still there. Higher amplitude, same frequency.
Dude, I just love how this looks and how it's putting it together.
That's by the way, that's incredible. I'm pretty sure that that's what um phase conjugation looks like on an oscilloscope.
Mm,
I'm almost certain about that. In my mind, that's what it looks like.
yeah.
That's how I see things, like weird like that. That's how like when I'm running these things through my brain, like exactly that sort of interaction is like what my brain contemplates. It's like that. That's incredible to see it on the scope.
Yeah, it's like okay, so there's the perfect signal when it's actually formed, right? So let's go back, and it looks like RF and distortion is what I'm looking at right here, right?
Looks like
It's
phase
just
configuration.
yeah, I'm there with you. I'm just trying to describe it another way.
I know.
I'm just saying it looks like complete mess, but it's beautiful to look at. But you can see it here, and you can see parts of it, and you see the structure forming, and then you get through it. Wow, it's amazing to look at how it works.
The exchange, man. Look, look, there's structure right there. You see all those cells, so to
Oh
speak.
yeah,
That's a
yeah.
standing wave of cells through the phase conjugation through the exchange. See, none of it goes away. It
No,
stays separate its entire time, and but then its two separate parts also form a separate thing together as well.
those lines just remind me of rings around Saturn. I don't know why it popped in my head. I just did, so I just reminds me of it. And then here you can see it still in bands. You know what I mean? It still has the 3 bands in there.
But you could see the original components. Look at where it gets fat.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, see how they're separate still, but they're connected and together and working together. They're exchanging, but they maintain themselves. This is exactly what I've been saying, and you're seeing it on the O scope. It's I better get my rag, buddy. I'm gotta wipe myself off.
Oh man, you can still see it there. It's still all over it.
Uh-huh. Oh boy, I like that.
And then perfect.
And
And I'm sure.
you could still see where the nodes and antinodes are thicker and separate and still connected. And that's the incredible part. Like that's the magic, man.
Yeah, right there. It's like a money shot right there. Wow. It goes, and I'll go back and forth now. So it goes from this to this. That's unbelievable.
Here, play it straight through if you don't mind.
Yeah, no problem.
There it is all along, man. That's exactly, man. That's exactly it. It's exactly what it does. I love it. It's exactly what it does.
Hmm. That's so cool. I'm glad Shawn sent us this one. This makes me happy every time I see it.
That's literally what's going on inside the clay, by the way. Like the inside of the clay is that exact exchange that's occurring. And once the connection is made one side to the other, crosses and then combines. And the reason it's fatty at the ends is because it's all the parts together
Hmm.
and separate at the same time. And ever so slightly different.
Yeah.
That's what's cool. Like because that's layered, just like the RAV is. Freaking
Nice.
amazing, man. Way to put my brain on a TV.
Yeah, no kidding. So, yeah, I'll put these up. I'll get the pictures together here. Shawn explains a lot of this. I think, Joe,
Oh, there's the angel. Go back. No,
at this one,
no, you had it a second ago, right there.
right there. Okay.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, look at that. Holding the
that's
anode. What
why
are
you
you
called it.
saying?
Yeah, that's why you called it the angel.
Look at that. I didn't really pick up on that until you see it right there. You see the wings coming off of it. You see the angel body, and you see the head, and you see the arms holding the anode.
Maxwell thought it was a demon,
It's not a
though.
demon.
I know it's not a demon. I'm just saying Maxwell thought it was.
Yeah.
It was an angel all along.
He says, Bobby says it's Tinkerbell. Nice.
Yep.
There you go.
Even got the
Lightspeed sees
green
it.
wings, right?
Yeah. It's not a tumor. Little Arnold in there. Nice.
Not yet. That's after it forms and you expose yourself to it for an extended period of time.
Hey, Lulu, how's it going, man?
Hey, Lulu.
Yeah, that is beautiful. I definitely agree with that. That's all the ether lit up around it. Nice. Sasquatch man. Sas- no, that says Squatter man. Sorry.
And
Nice.
you can still see your structured formation on the bottom. And hey, for what it's worth, I'm going to zoom in on this real quick. Okay. I mean, hard to tell, but I'm going to throw it out there. There's a few of those little bundle particles that appear to be kind of suspended. You know what I mean? Like not
Oh,
really attached to anything. So that might be worth looking at too.
oh yeah, yeah. We're gonna have to
Yeah, but
definitely zoom this in, slow it down, do everything to it.
you can see there's I'm zoomed in very close to it right now, taking a look, and there's definitely like a structure to how that's forming, and everything looks somewhat like equidistant as far as its spacing is concerned. So that falls right into line with what we're saying, and there's definitely 3, 4 pieces of that I'm looking at that don't appear to be directly connected to anything. It's literally just like virtually attaching via like some kind of virtual lattice situation. So pretty interesting. I don't know.
Yeah,
Dendritic.
nature,
Yeah, that's it is absolutely is dendritic, Dennis.
nature has a way of showing its gifts. Wow.
Yeah, well, I mean, when it was fully grown, I was thinking like it looked like mycelium and what that does, which like mycelium's like alive and intelligent or something. Some people think like so. I mean, it's interesting to think about how that does it. But yeah, it's definitely dendritic.
Yeah, we definitely got some effects going on here we didn't expect right away. And I'll say this again: Sean's a genius, and he put this together, and we're absolutely blown away by this. So all credit to Sean on these, man. He's way ahead of us. Every time I think I'm catching up, I'm just further behind.
It's one hell of a spark gap. Tell you that.
Yeah, you got an angel in the spark gap. Look at that. Oh, that's funny.
And yeah, I agree with John Digman on that cymatic matter. That's exactly what I'm saying. It's like virtually structured. It's like that's why I believe that it immediately dissipates when it's gone. It's only virtually structured. It's non crystallized. It's in
Oh,
a crystal form, but it's
but
non
it's not matter
solidified.
yet.
It's not solidified. It's
Ah,
structuring and it's virtual. And it's virtual, and then that's why you could see dangling little parts and stuff like that, is because it's structuring the same way that molecules structure, which they're not touching each other. They're a little bit here with an attraction repulsive lock force going on. That's and why? Well, what have I been saying about the magnetic fields all along? What did I say about the magnetic field on the RAV side? What did I say about there being an anti-RAV? Right? There's an anti-RAV that you're looking at right now. You just don't know it, but you're seeing the result of it.
hmm.
And where the dual magnetic fields culminate is a secondary zone where there's a magnetic repulsion attraction of the poles that occurs, like I was saying all along. Too. So it all starts to come into play once you start to see it.
Hmm.
I don't know. I have a hard time articulating these things sometimes. That's why I say a lot of words because like I can see it in my head, like what it is, but it's just hard to get out there, especially when nobody else is describing this stuff.
Yeah.
But
Hmm.
I think that the one big takeaway of this should be, um, the physicists, mainstream physicists, right? They struggled with this Maxwell's demon situation for a long time, as in locking down the second law of thermodynamics.
Hmm.
Okay. and they almost didn't put the second law in as like formal, law as opposed to theory, right? Because of the possibility, theoretical possibility that Maxwell's demon could happen, right? But then they said that even though it's theoretically possible, that it's not practically possible, right? Like they came up with the numbers that were just so all over the place as to why not, and said it really just can't happen. So go with the law, right? Well, now you can see it with your eyes. It's doing exactly what Maxwell said it would do. Okay. And I didn't even know about that law, but we were talking about that law all along when we were describing just what's going on here, right? Separation of the differentials, the unity and, stability that's able to be maintained and exchanged despite the separation, all this stuff. And now you could see it with your own eyes, hot and cold,
Hmm.
separated by basically nothing, all structuring itself and all in a full blown exchange. And then you see the oscilloscope and you could see the exchange happen. And then you could see it fall into the structure and then you could see the independent parts. This is the science, this is the proof, this is the episode on the internet
Hmm.
that reversed entropy,
Yeah.
by making these connections, by having these understandings, pointing it out and showing you and saying, hey, here it is. And this is it. That's real. Like this is there's no trickery here.
Yeah. I just want to shout out Papa Bill real quick. Say hi.
What's up, Papa?
Papa hangs out with us in Discord sometimes, man. It's totally awesome conversation to have with him, man, when he's on there. So Sean says he sent me a diagram. So give me a minute. I'm gonna reverse sensitive. Now right on, brother. Right on
Exactly
with us.
what it is. Exactly what it is.
Let's see if I can't pull this up. Give me 1 second. Sean said he sent me something. So you go ahead and talk, Joe. Give me a second.
Yep, we reversed entropy. Sean figured it out. Like, really, what's there more to say about that? Like,
Yeah.
like if nothing else says, slam your dick on the table and it's the biggest one in the room, like reverse an entropy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's it. Got the big old swinger going on there.
You know, I'll say this, just so everybody understands. This is like a physicist should be their dream. This RAV, and I know that's bragging and stuff like that because we're involved in it and stuff like that. But it literally tells you so much about how energy actually works and the way things build out and good, bad, or indifferent what the results are, whether they match, physics results or whether they, you know, are going against it a little bit, or maybe it's just not in line with it because of the structure yet. I think it's so fascinating. I think anybody who's in that field should look at this and say, I want to write papers based on this. You know what I mean? And shout out Sean's name every time in it that you do. You
Every
know?
single time.
Yeah.
This should be every physicist's dream, but it's actually their worst nightmare. And I've made sure this entire way, and through frustration of Nathan at that, and it's not for a matter of drinking the juice. Okay, I didn't drink the Kool-Aid. The idea here is that everything that we've been saying all along, okay, does not break any known physics. It actually epitomizes all the theories
It's
and
defining
then
it.
ties the one into the other, and then the one into the next, into the next, into the next, until they go full loop. And then once you connect those dots and you go the full loop, and you realize that not only have you broken no physics, but you followed all the rules to get to the conclusion, you realize that the conclusion is that you've reversed the entropy of it. And that's a little bit problematic. And this is the no one where to knock situation. And I've had to say this in defense of the work a few times. This isn't anything wildly complicated, right? But it's knowing where to knock. It's knowing what to do. It's having the foresight, the idea to be able to take these components and arrange them in such a way that this is what occurs. It's not hard to do, but that doesn't mean that it's not profound. And it's just an ignored. I just can't believe that this hasn't been previously, you know, um, found by just regular people out there to put to display like we are. We're very privileged to have that opportunity, thanks to Shawn.
I think it's the way Shawn goes about it. The way he sees something in one test going into the next test. You know what I mean? And the specific details he's pulling out of it, you can see clearly he has something in mind when he's doing the next test that he found in the previous test.
Hmm.
And when I go to reverse engineer this stuff and to try to mimic what he's doing, I can see the flow in his brain just going from one to the next. I see that structure building and I see what he's doing and I see it in the next one and I go, okay, so now I know what he picks up there. So I'm looking at it thinking, man, here is your next level. You know what I mean? To get to
Right.
that next thing because I
He's
could see the path.
he's seeing very little things, subtle things, and then intuitively exploiting it,
Yeah.
to get it to sit there and manifest itself in a greater present way. And that's been the repeat time and time again. That's exactly what you have to do because it's all about exploiting what you're already seeing. Because the stuff was all there in the first place. It was all there in the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
It took a lot of work to be able to understand it. Then it took a lot of work to be able to deconstruct it and understand the parts and the workings and what it can do and what it can't and etc. And then sitting there and refining that to the point where now you have a larger RAV that's just as stable, that has all the same effects plus other ones, and showing the other ones that were there all along, but that you couldn't really see because of just how the configuration was. But that's where the proof in the pudding lies. Like there's been a lot of sidebar type of experimentation that Shawn and Nathan both have been doing, um, not to further the gain of function, so to speak, right, of the RAV, and actually bring it to the point where it's like optimized and usable, but rather to prove the points and show the points of everything we've been saying all along. And sometimes it comes in very unexpected ways like this. When you
Yeah.
see the whole particle structuring on the bottom and it's cold. Um, the proof comes that way sometimes where it's unexpected because of how extreme it actually is when you exploit that particular characteristic. Or,
Uh,
like the light coming out when you were getting lasers shining out of it in coherent colors, you know, it, like that too. Like we said from the get go, it was like, oh, look at this transaxial component that it has. It comes sometimes. It's not there all the time. Then it was there all the time. Then all of a sudden it starts doing different things. And we're sitting there saying, well, now we know what the inside of this is doing, what the outside shell of this does,
mhm.
and what it needs to actually be stable, etc. So all these experiments have been more to show, like, no, what we're saying all along is the case. you know, just as much that way.
Yeah. Shawn said he sent me a few photos and I want to put them up.
Yeah,
I
let's go.
just I just wanted to say something before that. If there